Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NYSE TV Live. I'm Kristen Schiller here in studio above the iconic trading floor. And stocks are continuing to take a breather this morning, as has been the case this week, after what was the strongest weekly win streak for the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average that we've seen this year. In fact, last week, both indexes booked their sixth straight week of gains. Now, as we've been covering here on the show, corporate earnings continue to drive the market narrative as the next Federal Reserve decision doesn't come until after the election, and economic data remains pretty healthy. Well, today, several NYSE-listed companies reported results before the bell, including Coca-Cola, AT&T, Boeing, Hilton Worldwide, and Taylor Morrison Home. Well, by and large, companies are exceeding earnings expectations, which is the fundamental growth that fuels stock market gains. In fact, in the past year, the S&P 500 is up more than 35% and about 60% in the past 2 years since the bull market started. So with that, let's take a look at what is on tap in today's show. Well, as investors take a breather, stocks are consolidating recent gains, and we're less than 2 weeks away from the election. So I'll be joined by a markets expert to talk about where we go from here. Plus, this is big time. The WNBA's New York Liberty Championship team is in the house here at the Stock Exchange after defeating the Minnesota Lynx in Game 5 Sunday to take home the championship trophy. Liberty General Manager Jonquel Cole is going to join me live after celebrating at the opening bell. And finally, the NYSE is hosting its annual Space Summit later today with an afternoon of networking and learning on the docket. Famous astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson is going to join us soon with more on his outlook for the sector. Well, as we prepare for the market open, let's take a deeper dive into the action with Keith Fitzgerald. He's a principal of Fitzgerald Group, and he joins me remotely this morning. Keith, thank you so much for waking up early. I believe you're on the West Coast, and I want to start by getting your take of the markets and whether or not this breather might turn into a longer consolidation phase.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It is super early out here on the West Coast, but that's how you do things in this business. You get up and you get after it. I love where the markets are right now, and I love the fact that they are consolidating because you've got to take a little bit of profit off the table. That tells me people are still hungry. There's still a lot of liquidity that wants to come in. So, no, I don't think this is the start of anything more serious. I think this is just a technical correction, a technical pullback, whatever you want to call it. People are going to consolidate. Then they're going to find great companies and move forward because of all the earnings you just pointed out.
Okay, so let's talk about the Fed, because that, I think, could be the wild card here. The good news is the consumer seems strong. The economy seems to be humming along. We've seen that in the data, certainly GDP data, corporate earnings that are unfolding as we speak. But it seems like perhaps with a stronger than expected economy, the Fed rate cut projections might actually get dialed back. What is your view, knowing that the path for rates does impact equities so much?
Well, that really is the trillion-dollar question, and you've hit it. Because if rates go up, the cost of borrowing and the leverage that many of the big traders use goes up. So they tend to dial it back. What's really being tested today is whether the Fed will maintain that rate cut path. And boy, that's a mouthful. I think the markets are trying to test Chairman Powell, see if he's really serious. So we've seen this before, for example, in the currency crisis of 2012. We saw it again a little bit on the heels of the global financial crisis of 2008 and 9. So again, not unusual, just uncomfortable.
Just uncomfortable. What is the data telling you about the strength of the consumer right now, Keith?
Well, they're very mixed. You clearly have a lot of people who are still hurting, and that's unfortunate because I believe, and I've been harshly critical of this, I think the Fed policies have contributed to this. So there are definitely splits in the marketplace. Many people are struggling to make ends meet. On the other hand, you've got great companies like NVIDIA, like Coca-Cola, who continue to put good numbers up, and they are strong, which is confounding the Fed because they can't model that.
Interesting. Now, in terms of what this means for the investment outlook, Keith, what is your take there?
I think you want to do two things. Number one, if you're a golfer, this is the time to keep it on the fairway. 2 weeks ahead of the elections, you don't want to be taking wild swings. You don't want to be driving for the fences. What you want to be doing is just playing a nice, tight, close game so that you can focus on the companies that matter. Because the question is not the hot stocks, Kristen. The question is which stocks are going to be there when you need them. That's how we approach the markets, and especially 2 weeks ahead of the elections.
Well, certainly technicals are an element of the market as well, in addition to fundamentals. Technicals, of course, chart patterns. Anything that you're seeing in the charts right now, Keith, that could indicate the direction from here?
Well, what's really cool is if you look at history, right, we've had a very long 6-week consecutive marketplace. Anytime that happens, the history suggests that we're looking at another 10, 12, 24 months of upside. If you have the kind of growth that we've seen, we don't see that very often either. There's an 86% probability that we're 11 to 14% higher a year from now. So the history suggests that money wants to grow if you let it alone. Now, there's always wild cards, but again, the odds are pretty darn solid when you look at how the money's moving, and that clearly is forward.
I want to ask about Tesla, Keith, because we'll get that report after the close today. This is a wildly popular, spoken about stock and company, of course, on the social media sphere. What is your expectation for Tesla?
Well, I own it, and there are times where it is one of the most frustrating stocks I've ever encountered in my entire 45 plus years of doing this. But that doesn't change the fact that he's changing the world. So I'm willing to put up with the shenanigans because we're on the cusp of AI, robotics, the robo-taxis. I think Wall Street is tremendously underestimating everything that Musk is trying to achieve. And the parallels would be like betting against Jobs back in the day.
Interesting. So what does the future of Tesla look like? I know you've mentioned that it's reinventing itself in some capacity beyond just electric cars.
Well, that's the thing. People think about it in terms of EVs, but that is really such a tiny microcosm of what they do. And so over time, this reminds me of 2014 when Apple first unveiled services. Today, that's a $100 billion division, second only to iPhone sales. I think between subscriptions, data, energy storage, transmission, robotics, etc., EVs are actually going to be an decreasing segment of Tesla's overall revenue and profit picture, and that the reverse will be true, and it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise.
Interesting. So I know you said obviously stay the course as we approach the election. Any sort of election outcome that you think might impact the direction for stocks?
Well, I tell you what, I do money. I don't do politics. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. So, I think barring a major exogenous shock, if, for example, war in the Middle East accelerates, Jerome Powell resigns, I think that the markets are just going to chug ahead.
Okay, so I got that straight there. Money is the focus, Keith, for you. We are awaiting remarks in the boardroom here at the New York Stock Exchange. WNBA's New York Liberty here to celebrate the opening bell after clinching the championship win on Sunday in Game 5, defeating the Minnesota Lynx. Keith, if I have to jump in, that's why we got to get that traffic straight. But another question to you. In the meantime here, Coca-Cola, another company reporting, obviously gives us a sense of the consumer. International as well. We've talked about the health of the U.S. economy. What are you seeing on an international level?
Well, same kind of thing. There's very much a split between the haves and have-nots. The companies and countries that are going forward and those that aren't. What I liked about the Coca-Cola earnings was even though they're sluggish, the pricing power is still there. So, I was happy with the numbers. I wish they were higher, but I wasn't unpleased or displeased, I guess would be the word with Coca-Cola. I don't own it, but, I'm going to look at it because Coke, Pepsi, they're pretty much indispensable.
Are you a WNBA fan?
I was the worst kid in PE when it came to basketball, let me tell you, but I love the game, love the sport, love those athletes. They're doing a phenomenal job, and they're great to watch.
It's interesting. We had a company on yesterday, the co-founder of Vestibule, and investing in some of these athletes when they're younger, of course, with NIL. following their career trajectories and actually being able to make money off of them is another market that we're following, in addition to stocks, which I know we're focused on here. So a good tie-in as we await those exclusive boardroom remarks from the New York Liberty team, and the GM is going to join me a little bit later on the show. Keith, consolidation is good here. You mentioned anything that would cause, let's say, a correction, a 10% pullback that our viewers should be aware of.
Well, number one, if it is a 10% pullback, the markets are the only store on earth where people fear a sale. So I would welcome that, because it would give me the opportunity to accumulate better stocks, more different positions, those kind of things. But, it's going to be something exogenous to the market. It's going to be something they don't count on. The phrase black swan is overused. It's more like gray swans at this point. But a sharp rise in rates would do it. Some kind of financial hiccup at the Fed, that would clearly roil the markets. But again, longer-term history, Kristen, that is inevitably an opportunity of epic proportions if you've got the guts to take advantage of it.
There's been such a focus on these richly valued, high-flying technology names, certainly 2 years into the bull market, Keith, that names like NVIDIA, for instance, even in Tesla at one point, and of course other big names like Amazon and Apple really have been driving the gains. They gained even more market share as people have invested in them. I just got the cue. We got to go to the boardroom. Keith, we'll check in with you after the bell, and let's take a listen to those exclusive remarks.
Jonathan Cole. Kayla Thornton. I'm not sure what area I'm looking at, what part of the stage I'm looking towards. Okay. Ivana Jokic. Jalen Sherrod. Kennedy Burke. Rebecca Gardner. Leonie Fibich. Markeisha Davis. Sorry, reading this upside down is a little challenging. Sorry. Courtney Vandersloot. Nayara Sabali. Brianna Stewart. Sabrina Ionescu. Congratulations. And someone who needs no introduction, Clara Wu Tsai. Clara, without your belief in this team and your vision, this wouldn't be possible. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to all of you. On the front of the medallion are our 6 pillars. That stands for a variety of things, but importantly, they stand for freedom. And on the back is the buttonwood tree. 232 years ago, we were founded under a buttonwood tree on the corner of Wall and Broad. I promise you the demographics of the people who founded us looked a little different than they do today. It reminds us of our roots, but importantly, it reminds us of our commitment to sustainability and diversity in the future. Congratulations. It is our honor to welcome you all to the New York Stock Exchange. You want to say something? Yeah, come on up.
You're hard to follow, but I'm going to try. So, first off, thank you so much for having us here today. It's incredibly special and a little bit surreal. I remember we were here in March and we were ringing in our partnership with Barclays, and I think at the time everybody was like, see you in October. And glad we made good on that promise. So it's just incredibly surreal to be here. Want to personally recognize Clara, Tsai, our entire ownership group, all of our players behind me here, coaching staff, front office. I mean, it really does take a village to make something like this happen, and just everybody is just incredibly vital and crucial to achieve the goals that we accomplished this year. And with that, I think we're just incredibly proud to not only have brought the first championship in New York Liberty history, one of the league's original franchises, but also, as you mentioned, the first pro basketball championship in over 50 years to New York City. This is a city that just craves success on the basketball court, and I'm so proud of our team for what we accomplished. So it's really special because today we get to ring the bell of the New York Stock Exchange as a team, and there's nothing like it. So who knows? Maybe we'll make this a tradition every October, right? Who knows? We'll see. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Jonquel, who I understand couldn't join us this morning. Is that right? So we'll make sure we get that.
We were just listening from Jonathan Cole there. He's the general manager of the New York Liberty. He's going to be making his way to the opening bell podium here at the New York Stock Exchange to celebrate, along with that championship team behind him, the first WNBA title of the New York Liberty. We have so much to talk to Jonathan about. That's going to be, of course, after the opening bell, as I mentioned, but some superstar power on that podium, to say the least. We'll talk more about it as we get closer to the bell, but right now I want to check in with my colleague Trinity Chavez and her very special guest, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Trinity, good morning.
Good morning, Kristen. Yeah, so as space exploration continues to capture the imagination of scientists, entrepreneurs, and, well, the general public alike, our next conversation couldn't come at a more pivotal moment. From major space missions and private ventures pushing the boundaries of commercial space, the sector is at the forefront of both scientific and geopolitical discussions. Joining me now to dive into the biggest storylines right now that are shaping the sector is astrophysicist, best-selling author, and director of the Hayden Planetarium at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us all the way from Las Vegas. I know it's early there too, so we really appreciate having you on the show. But let's get started by talking about what you think are the biggest news headlines right now that are coming out of the space sector.
Well, I think what's the difference now compared with just even a decade ago or 15 years ago is so many things are happening sort of all at once. In the old days, it was, oh, they're going to this planet or this moon or there's this space launch, and everyone would gather around and watch that. The fact that so many things are happening. We just launched just this week a mission to Jupiter's moon Europa to look for life, okay? And of course, the commercial sector is still going gangbusters. There's investments in it coming from all sectors. We find private enterprise assisting NASA and vice versa. So I kind of like the fact that all of space has become our next frontier, not just a single directional path towards one goal. So I'm not going to pick one headline over another. I'm going to take them all.
But which one would you say is the most significant, in expanding our understanding of the universe?
Well, so NASA has a budget. Oh, by the way, I will note that NASA's budget has been shrinking as a fraction of the total budget of the United States. So, you read it as, I forgot the latest numbers at $26.7 billion. So that's a lot of money, one would think to oneself. But compared to the total budget of the United States, it is almost at an all-time low. All right, fine. It's that small amount of money that gets us the International Space Station and the missions that will return to the moon. I've been looking forward to that for 50 years. I think we haven't been back to the moon since the New York Knicks won a championship. So one of the others got to happen. And so So returning to the moon is a very big fact, that because we haven't been there in 50 years. It's called the Artemis program, and we're waiting for the second mission out of 3, which will send astronauts to the moon, but not walk yet. We just want to check the intermediate steps.
Yeah.
It's the third mission that's going to go to the moon, walk on the South Pole, where we think there's water buried within the darkened craters. They're called cold traps, where comets hit, water falls in, and stays there forever. And if there's water there, then we don't have to bring water to the moon. You can turn water into rocket fuel, it turns out. So
wow.
I guess that's the one I'm most excited about if I had to pick one.
I could tell. You're getting excited. You're getting me excited just watching you tell the story over Zoom. But you know what, Neil? We're going to pick this conversation back up and talk more about the Artemis mission as well as other space investments after this quick break. So to our viewers, stay tuned. We'll have more of this conversation on the other side. From automotive to climate tech and electronics, 3M is working to build a better tomorrow through innovative solutions and first-in-class material science. We're going to find out how on this episode of Taking Stock. You're here at CES. I mean, this installation is incredible. Let's talk about some of the most exciting products you're showcasing.
3M, at our heart, we're a material science company, and what we're showing here at CES is how we're actively building for tomorrow with our inventions, with our technology.
You've been working together with 3M for about 4 years now. You've been building this product that you're debuting here at CES. Let's talk about it.
So this is the world's first self-powered hearing protector. This hearing protector has my solar cell here on the top. This will allow you to harvest any light, indoor light, outdoor light, shade, when it's dusty, all kinds of lights, and charge the battery. This means we're saving, together with 3M, millions and millions of batteries over the lifetime of the product.
Now, as a customer of 3M, let's talk about the products that you utilize most.
What we do with Voltaire is that we develop solar panels with application in agriculture.
These right here?
Like the one
okay.
here, exactly. In the agricultural sector, light is very important for the crops to grow. If you take away light, you're going to take away some of the yield of the crops. What we do with 3M and the way we partner with 3M is that we develop a solar solution specifically tailored for the needs of the crops. So we use the filter from 3M to separate the light coming from the sun. The part of the light that is necessary for the growth of the crops goes through. What is not used by photosynthesis is taken out and transformed into renewable energy. It's an entirely new opportunity of how to approach energy in the agricultural space.
Wow, so it's really making the world a better place.
Hopefully, yes.
What are you most excited about this year?
Changing the narrative in people's minds about what 3M is as a company.
Welcome back to NYC TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez, and to continue our conversation on all things space, I'm going to bring back in astrophysicist, best-selling author, and once again the director of the Hayden Planetarium at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And Neil, you probably hear the crowd cheering behind me. You know, we're above the trading floor right now, but we have the WNBA here and the players and the team getting ready to open up the U.S. equity market. So I'm sure that you're getting excited on the other side as well.
As a native New Yorker, yes, to bring the championship to the city. I just realized, of course, you are the New York Stock Exchange television. And so our conversation about space, people might like to know that worldwide, governments spend a little more than $100 billion in space, but the total amount of expenditures in space, so the total value of the space economy is closer to $600 billion.
Wow.
And that's much more than it was just even a few years ago. So that is a growing fact. And it used to be that governments were the only players in town. Just who else would be sending anything into space? But that's just not the case anymore. So space, I mean, if you want to talk about a growth market, that's definitely, and space is infinite.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You know,
sky is the limit in space.
And you bring up a good point talking about the trajectory of the space sector and how it's really evolved through time. And being here at the New York Stock Exchange, I mean, we're launching our space summit later on today, where a bunch of entrepreneurs, leaders, and some of the biggest innovators and industry influencers are going to be here at the forefront of these kind of conversations. So I do want to talk to you from an investment standpoint. What specific companies, or whether it be on the public side or the private side, side are really making moves when it comes to companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and others playing, a role in space travel. And where do you see that going over the next decade?
Yeah, so right now, just consider that, there's the billionaire boys space race, right? The Bezos, Branson, Musk. But there's a difference there. Bezos and Branson are suborbital. So they will launch from some location of their choosing that's sufficiently unpopulated so that you don't accidentally land on someone's home. And it goes above what we call the Kármán line, which is that boundary between the atmosphere and space, where above that line, you can see stars in the daytime because the atmosphere doesn't have that blue glow anymore. All right, and then they come back and they're weightless for some number of minutes. Okay, that's different from launching and then going into orbit. It takes about 90 minutes to orbit, and you can orbit as many times as the project requires, and then you deorbit. Elon is sending people into orbit. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
A whole other level of science and technology to make that happen. And so SpaceX is definitely leading the way in this regard. Certainly with regard to space tourism, if by tourism you mean I want to see the entire Earth turn beneath my feet, well, there's no down or up in space. So see the entire Earth's out the window. And so that, and to the extent that that becomes a routine activity of someone's, I would save up a few vacation monies, a few years of vacation money to do that, to get the overview effect of the world, where you don't see national borders, you don't see color-coded countries, where Earth becomes a planet again. Yes. So Elon has been, SpaceX broadly, has been trying to reduce the cost of getting into space, because that's been the great barrier. And he's made great achievements, not the least of which because he returns parts of the spaceship to then reuse it. But if you flew to Europe on a 747, and every time you got there, they shoved it off a cliff and rolled out another one, it'd be really expensive getting to Europe. So the idea of reusability is a very important first step in bringing this to the general public.
And we are so excited to continue our coverage on the news coming out of the space sector, because again, it's been at the forefront of so many conversations, and we look forward to having you back on to talk all about it. Once again, thank you so much, Neil deGrasse Tyson, world-renowned astrophysicist, and you have a new book, or latest book, coming out on October 29th, titled
Next
Merlin's
week.
Yeah, exactly. Merlin's Tour of the Universe, revised and updated for the 21st century. So Neil, we're looking forward to having you back on to chat more about that.
Excellent. We'll be there. Thank you.
All right, take care. Now, Kristen, I'm thinking, as you just heard, we definitely should have him back on to talk about his new book. What do you think?
I think he's a great guest, great insight from him. I thought he had a lot of great points too, Trinity, of course, about the space economy and where investments can be made, of course, ahead of the New York Stock Exchange Space Summit later today. I checked, I know he said SpaceX leads worth $180 billion as of the end of last year. Let's take a quick break and then we'll rejoin you on the other side.
So, Carla, it's Climate Week. Tell me, how's it been going? Do you have any key takeaways?
Yes, I've really been enjoying Climate Week. It's such a rare opportunity to get everyone from around the world together to think and talk about climate change. So one big takeaway for me is that there are more technologies than ever to help us better measure greenhouse gases, monitor, as well as reduce emissions. And AI is actually enabling those technologies to do even more and to lead to more productivity. One of my other takeaways is that common policies and approaches really do help. And so it's been nice to think globally, but also act locally.
Now, Carla, tell me about PG&E's climate goals and what's unique about the role a utility like PG&E can play in addressing climate change.
Well, PG&E is committed to having a net zero carbon energy system across our electricity and gas system by 2040. And in order to do that, we've made some commitments through 2030. So by 2030, we'll have reduced our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 50%, our Scope 3 emissions by 25%. And we're also focused on helping our customers reduce their greenhouse gas footprint through energy efficiency and electric vehicles. And what's unique about a utility doing this work is that we're going to fuel decarbonization. So it's our role to make sure that the grid is ready for all the EVs, for the electric buildings, And I'm really proud that recently, in a recent decarbonization ranking, PG&E was ranked #1 utility in terms of our decarbonization efforts.
Now, accelerating electric vehicle adoption is a big priority for PG&E. Can you share why and what steps you're taking?
Well, reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector is key. 40% of California's emissions come from transportation, and 1 in 7 electric vehicles in the country is in our service area. We also know that the more EVs we have on the road, that increased load helps lower the price of electricity for everyone. So we're focused in a couple of areas, preparing.
All right, so you're taking a live look there at the opening bell podium. Great to see WNBA champions, the New York Liberty, who play at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, celebrating their championship win from Sunday, including with Liberty chants down there on the floor. Key players Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu right there, front and center, to celebrate that open. And I'm going to be joined by the general manager of this team down there on the floor in just a few moments. As these players make their way down, we'll talk about the business tie-ins throughout the rest of the show, including Sabrina's massive deal with Nike, one of the most popular shoes out there right now. But at the moment, I do want to turn back to markets, and I'm rejoined by Keith Fitzgerald of Fitzgerald Group, joining from the West Coast. Keith, great to have you. And it looks like we are seeing stocks open, taking that breather as we had talked about earlier. Sounds like nothing to be too concerned about as earnings season continues on and we pick up steam into earnings with that peak season approaching next week. Any particular reports on your radar that you think could be market moving?
Well, clearly Tesla this afternoon is going to be a game changer or a game enhancer. We don't know which yet, but I'm watching tech, of course. Defense, we just came through. I own both Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, so we're super happy to see those reports. So really, it's steady as she goes. The biggest mistake most investors make right now, Kristen, is that they let their emotions get the better of them. So they see something that the headlines latch onto, and instead of making a small course correction, they do something crazy. And that works against them over time. So it's calm, stay on the fairway, stay focused right now, especially coming into elections.
And collected. Tech earnings usually do seem to take the spotlight. We can see those stocks move in different directions, clearly in the wake of those reports. Once we get into next week, Apple, Amazon, NVIDIA. Keith, I'm sure NVIDIA probably is on your radar. So much focus has been on the semiconductor space as it's tied to artificial intelligence of late. What's your take?
I think AI is going to go down as one of the single biggest investable opportunities in recorded human history. So, bottom line on that is any investor who is playing around the edges is going to get left behind. Investors who are smart enough to wade in and to just hold their nose and do it anyway, chances are probably going to do very, very well over time.
Very well over time. We'll be following that closely, of course. We talk so much about AI and really a lot of companies in the pipeline to tap the capital markets. I'm curious what you think about the deal pipeline, if that could open up more, as we do anticipate interest rates will come down over time.
You know, we were just talking about that in the office the other day. You know, I would like to see a bigger, more robust pipeline. But what's happening instead is these great big companies have got strong balance sheets and lots of cash. So they're buying up many of the smaller players before the public even gets a chance at them. So ironically enough, when it comes to big tech, the best tech, you want to be with these big dominant names because they're the ones that are getting their hands on the small innovative technology. It's very rare to see a small company like Palantir break through. But once you do, hold on for dear life because chances are that's going to do really well.
Any other emerging industries, Keith, that you think could be attractive opportunities out there in addition to artificial intelligence?
Absolutely, and it's a spillover effect. I think healthcare is going to be a complete upend here within the next 5 years. We're going to solve cancer. We're going to solve hunger. We're going to solve many of the medical problems, Parkinson's, MS, that we have been struggling with as human beings for thousands of years. So healthcare in particular, developmental medicine, and AI acceleration of laboratory treatments, those are all subsegments of the healthcare environment. I think we're on the cusp of customizable medicine, is what I call it.
Customizable medicine, that certainly will be in focus. Do you have a year-end target, Keith, as we look to wrap up this segment and head down to the trading floor?
Well, we just took out my year-end target going up, so I've got to redo those numbers, Kristen. I don't have one that I can whip out just yet. I've got to do some math.
Impressive, though, that we see the S&P 500 up 60% in the past 2 years, of course, since this bull market started in October of 2022. Keith Fitzgerald, principal at Fitzgerald Group, joining me remotely on the West Coast. Keith, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
An honor. Thank you.
All right, well, stay with us, everyone, because we will have more coverage, including my interview with the GM of the New York Liberty on the other side of this short break.
I know you have a big event coming up. We'll get to that in a moment. But for those that are listening in who maybe aren't following ETF Express as closely as I am, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Thank you so much. So ETF Express was founded in 2006. So it's been going a really long time. And that was in England. But we are a global title. We've been writing about ETF launches and interviewing managers and issuers and service providers around the world since 2006. We launched awards in Europe in 2010, and we have an unusual method of organizing our awards. We're not pay to play. We have a qualitative and a quantitative screen for our awards. So if you're an issuer, you get to be nominated by our data partners, Track Insight, and then you go through a voting process from your peers. And if you're a service provider, you can nominate yourselves, but then you equally go through a voting process from peers. So it's not pay to play, and it's not sort of going into a dark room and with a committee and coming out with a random, obviously strong, but ours is voting. We like that. The firms with the most votes win. So we've been doing them in Europe since 2010, and then we launched them in the US in 2019. And then, of course, we had a couple of years where we did them from home, which was, an interesting experience, but not the same. And then we added in Canada in 23, and we're very much hoping to expand into Asia next year. And if you win an award, you get to come to our party, which is the awards event. And our one for the US this year will be on the 24th of October. If you don't know about it, I'm sorry, it means you haven't won one. But also, you're sworn to secrecy. So there's this kind of, tricky thing there. Tricky not to.
Welcome back to NYC TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez. We are live on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, where we are celebrating New York Liberty and their championship here at the New York Stock Exchange. They just opened up the U.S. equity markets. As you can see, there's about, 200 people behind me here just to witness this day and this milestone celebration. And I do have to point out that they have a very long day ahead as we get ready for their parade tomorrow. It's actually called the Canyon of Heroes. That's starting at 10 a.m. and they're going to work their way to City Hall as the whole city celebrates this milestone championship 2024, the Liberty. We have the coaches, the team members here. We also have the executive team. Some members of the WNBA are here on the trading floor as we celebrate New York Liberty here at the exchange. And I just want to point out that they had really a phenomenal season where they finished with an impressive 32-8 record. They capped off with a thrilling Game 5 win in overtime against the Minnesota Lynx. And of course, there was a standout performances from star players like Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, as well as Jonquel Jones. And now this victory is a huge moment for the team and also just New York sports in general, because the city now is buzzing with excitement, and the parade, like I said, is planned to celebrate tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's going to really put a cherry on top of this historic win. Now, Now, to talk more about this incredible achievement, my colleague Kristen Scholler will be joined by the general manager here in just a few moments. I think they're getting prepared right now on the other side to have that conversation and talk about what's next for the Liberty. But I love how he was mentioning in the boardroom that he would love to make his visit here with the team at the New York Stock Exchange, an annual one, as they celebrate key milestones, not only individually, but also just as a team, because as he alluded to, this would not be possible without the hard work, the dedication, and everything that his team put into it. But now we're going to take a live look of the floor, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to NYSC TV Live, everyone. I'm joined here on the floor with the championship-winning team, the New York Liberty of the WNBA, in the background, and I'm here with the general manager of the team, Jonathan Cole. Jonathan, congratulations on the win on Sunday.
Thank you so much. Means the world to New York and to us, so thanks for having us.
We're so happy to host you here at the Stock Exchange. What went into building this championship team?
Yeah, just, everything we had. We just wanted to assemble a roster that really New York could be proud of. We wanted to bring a championship to an original franchise, and we accomplished it. We couldn't be more proud.
Talk to me about what has changed since you took the helm in 2019, of course, just before COVID started, and how you've been able to transform the team since then.
Yeah, look, I think the first part was we planted roots in Brooklyn. We play at Barclays Center now, right? And that's credit to our ownership group for really investing in our team, in our franchise. And it's kind of a if you build it, they will come scenario. And now you see the stars that have wanted to come and play for the New York Liberty. And we just won a championship in front of almost 19,000 fans. And it's the best environment in the WNBA and arguably in sports. And it's been really organically built.
Talk to me about the move to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. What that has done for the franchise?
It's been everything. I think even visitors that come through know what a special environment it is. We've got a fan base that just is so passionate, and they turn out every single game for us. And I think there's a special relationship between our players and our fan base that just plays out on the court inside of Barclays Center.
Interesting superstar players that you have on this team. Talk to me about their value add and how that helps both on and off the court.
Oh, for sure. I mean, on the court, I think you see it, right? When you have a Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu on down the line, they're just incredible talents in their own right. But then off the court, what they've done in the market of New York City at large, it's been incredible. You've got brands like Puma, Nike, everybody kind of behind us, and it's been exciting to see.
The first basketball championship here in New York since 1973. How does it feel to bring it home? New York's needed one.
We have, and it's just surreal. Right now, it's just we're all soaking it in. We've got a big day tomorrow with the parade to celebrate with New York, and I think that's going to be when it finally sets in that we really did accomplish our goal.
We'll be watching that ticker tape parade very closely. Of course, we have our own tag to the ticker tape here at the New York Stock Exchange. When does training for 2025 begin?
It started this morning. I mean, it's just again an eye on how do we level this up and get better for next year. And it's just that's the blessing of being in this position, right? Like the off season is the front office time, and so we're going to get started now to try to do this again next year and hopefully be here in October.
Jonathan Cole, General Manager of the New York Liberty, thank you so much. All right, great. We'll have more with the New York Liberty after this short break. Stay with us on NYSC TV Live.
So, Meredith, bond ETFs were created to provide easier access to fixed income markets. And over the last few years, they've helped facilitate liquidity in the bond market. So how have ETFs impacted bond pricing and liquidity?
So there's a few key elements of the ETF that I want to highlight that explain how they're additive from a liquidity perspective. So the first point is the create redeem mechanism, which allows for primary transactions. It's the hub of the wheel, and it allows for us to efficiently transfer risk. The second element of this is the price discovery vehicle, and the price discovery vehicle has led to the development of algos. The other thing to think about is that the growth of algo trading, the growth of portfolio trading, the ETFs are the hedge for that. So as we think about credit market structure, all three of these things will grow together. So if we look back over the last 5 years, there's been some pretty prominent shifts within the credit markets. The first is PT, portfolio trading. ETFs and ETF options are the fastest growing segments within credit markets. The other piece that really stands out to me is portfolio trading as a percentage of cash bond markets is now about 8 to 9%. Just 5 years ago in 2020, that number was closer to 2%. If we look at ETFs from the same prism, ETFs are now, from an IG perspective, 15% of cash bond volumes. That number is up from 7% in 2020. And high yield ETFs have also shown similar growth. They're now accounting for roughly 30% of volumes. That number used to be about 20%.
So let's fast forward to today. There's been a lot of innovation in this space. How have innovations such as thematic or actively managed options altered trading strategies? And what do you see as the associated risks and rewards?
That's a great question and very topical. If I put on my ETF hat, I really think about the product evolution in ETFs in chapters. So the first chapter, there was a lot of index beta products that were offered to the market. The second chapter was
Welcome back to NYSC TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here with Trinity Chavez. We are down here on the floor of the stock exchange with the WNBA New York Liberty Championship trophy behind us. Trinity, a great win that we were able to see play out Sunday, of course, defeating the Minnesota Lynx in Game 5, and some serious superstar power here at the New York Stock Exchange.
I mean, did you see that belt podium? Just everybody here underneath the belt podium, just captivating every single second of this historic moment, this massive championship as we gear up for the ticker tape parade tomorrow, kicking off at 10 a.m. I mean, I was telling our audience earlier that there's about 200 people here on the trading floor, again, an active trading floor, just to see the Liberty ring that opening bell, opening up the U.S. equity markets, and such an exciting day. We love days like this at the exchange.
Absolutely. Big time names like Breanna Stewart. She was the MVP, the league MVP of the WNBA last season. The GM told me that preparation for 2025 starts now, this morning, before that ticker tape parade tomorrow. And of course, Sabrina Ionescu as well. She has one of the biggest sponsorship deals with Nike, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
But key, as we take a look at this beautiful trophy.
I mean, it's really incredible. I mean, just to have this here, where the Distinguished Guest Book traditionally sits, Kristen, an iconic moment here on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's an incredible moment.
It is truly an incredible moment. And Sabrina Ionescu, we might need to add this to our holiday shopping list. Trinity, we've been talking so much about holiday shopping on this show as we gear up.
Yes.
She has the most popular shoes, and I believe they are unisex shoes, male or female.
I'm going to have to put that on my Christmas list for sure. Maybe
Nike
some of the fall deals that we're seeing play out right now.
Exactly. So she is big time here at the New York Stock Exchange, and just really good to see all the excitement around a New York team. We have not seen a New York team win a basketball championship since the 1970s. It's been decades. And so for Jonathan Cole, the GM of the New York Liberty, to really build this team over the past 5 years that he's been at the helm, since 2019, just before the pandemic, and of course through the pandemic, is a massive accomplishment. It was really an honor to speak with him earlier in the show.
And of course, this is on the heels of that major news announcement with Nike, that partnership, that 12-year partnership that we're going to dive into a little bit deeper in my interview with John Furrier, the co-founder of SiliconANGLE and host of theCUBE. We're going to be talking about all things tech, right? And how tech is really shaping the landscape of the overall sports community, specifically when it comes to women's sports. We're going to dive in deep on wearable sports technology, how it's literally changing the game, Kristen, yes. Pun intended. But overall sports, and how it's impacting not only basketball, but also soccer and football and various sports sectors. So that's going to really be an exciting conversation.
We had seen Jonquel Jones. She was on the podium as well. Key player forward for the New York Liberty. Actually the finals MVP. So it was good to see her. Kia Clark, the president of the organization as well. And so it's great to have such female powerhouse here in the building.
And I love it. And so many of them are rocking their power suits. I love a good power suits here on the trading floor. But I think that we're getting to that interview in just a few moments.
Maybe we can take a look at that trophy behind us. I'm going to step out. Trinity, look forward to hearing more about, of course, the deal with Nike and the WNBA.
Great. I'll catch up with you later, Kristen. And now, as I was mentioning, not only did the NYSE listed company Nike just sign that huge 12-year deal to stay, be with the NBA, WNBA, and G League's exclusive on-court apparel provider through 2037, but the partnership goes far beyond just gear. Nike is also ramping up its grassroots basketball efforts, expanding tech-driven fan experiences and investing in AI to enhance athlete performance, with a bigger push specifically in women's basketball. So I'm bringing in now John Furrier, who I mentioned earlier on in the show. He is the co-founder of SiliconANGLE, but also the host of theCUBE. So John, what an exciting day here at the Exchange. I just want to dive into this conversation about how Nike is really leveraging AI technology to transform the way they do business.
Yeah. I mean, Nike's no stranger to innovation. If you go back in the 90s, the whole aerobic wave hit. They were on it with apparel, the performance of their products. Now we're in a modern era where AI is data-driven, so they're about data, but they're integrating technology into all their products, and that's a key thing. They're known for their performance, but now they have data performance, gathering data on athletes, and the key is the products have integrated technology into the products. That allows them to get the data they need to kind of enter in this wave around AI and digital presence, and these athletes, they have digital footprints. Unlike traditional cable, they're the stars.
But you know what, it's not only beneficial to the manufacturer or the company who's implementing, right, this AI technology, but also hugely beneficial for the players themselves, right, because they could track their own progress, their performance, and how they could continuously get better in the game, right?
Yeah, the teams, the players and the coaches use the technology that are tracking their performance, their movements, their speed. It's changing the formation of the teams as well as the performance of the athlete. And as athletes these days look at their performance, you got biohacking trend. People are really focusing on their health and look to the stars and the athletes as kind of role models. So there's a huge thing. Women's soccer, women's basketball, all sports down to the youth level are integrating data into the performance and ultimately the satisfaction. And the fans get that in the applications.
And you know, it was so interesting because when I was out covering CES last year in Las Vegas, we got to see a little preliminary sneak peek, so to speak, about all of the tech that was hitting the markets just last year, including that sports bra that you and I were talking about, about how women are able to just wear a sports bra that has that built-in technology to track their progress.
Yeah, I mean, that's a key thing, and I've seen examples of this where people who are not on their game or slower in practice, the coaches see that, they make real-time formations around team formation, and then ultimately the fan experience gets that data, so as you get augmented reality and virtual reality, people can have immersive experience with that data and actually get actual movement. So the fan experience is not just on the athletes, it's the movement of the data and also translates into all the cool apps that are coming out, and ultimately people get better at their performance. And with digital, they can do other things, seek health recommendations, also work on their game.
And I do want to talk more about the whole fan experience and how we're seeing companies implement through this technology, enhance that overall fan experience.
Yeah, I mean, when the fans can see the data, they can actually track all kinds of stats on the screens. You see that thing with NFL, with the game cast, you got all the stats. And the fans can see more behind the game and then take that offline after the game is over and create a digital twin of the experience and really kind of rock that whole connection to the athlete and the team.
So it's basically taking the whole experience on and off the court or the field in this situation. What kind of trends right now are you seeing when it comes to the overall sports sector, and what are companies doing? Are there any specific sports that are implementing this sort of technology more so than others?
Well, all the sports are looking at analytics. You see that in the NFL is a big thing. NHL, women's soccer, women's basketball. The analytics are now driving a lot of the decision making on how the teams will perform in real time. Halftime adjustments used to be a locker room thing. Now they're doing adjustments in real time during the game. Everyone's got applications. So the whole game are changing around the role of data. AI will make that easier to surface the insights in real time. That's going to be the key thing.
So where do you see the landscape then going over the next 10 to 12 years?
Well, I think it's going to be the fans will be included in it. I think you're going to see a lot more voting with the fans. You see coaching being augmented. It's all about augmenting the human in the loop. That's going to be the fan and the coaches.
And what are some other big trends that you're following right now in the AI and tech space and what you're covering on SiliconANGLE and theCUBE?
Well, the big thing right now is that the performance of these chips that are coming out are becoming so strong, the applications are going to adjust. Just like during the PC revolution in the 80s, as the chips got faster, the apps got better. So we're going to see a tsunami of applications become better, faster, more intelligent, and with agent technology coming out, you're going to see a lot more new things that we've never seen before.
Now, I do want to bring the conversation back to, obviously, WNBA's team, Liberty here, celebrating their championship. Championship, ringing the opening bell. How do you see partnerships like Nike investing in women's sports, leveraging or perhaps opening the doors for other major partnerships?
I think Nike's a real signal. Their brand is so strong. They have the data. And if you look at what Nike's done over the years, they invest in innovation, but the athletes are the center of the brand. So I think Nike is sending a signal that, hey, as the digital culture emerges, you're going to see fans do things differently. And I think with media, getting exposure to women's sports has been the key driver to their success. And I think that's going to be the key going forward, that getting more exposure will impact the economics of the business model. And that's where you start to see Instagram, TikTok, digital technologies open up the aperture for more exposure and ultimately more revenue. And Nike gets that. And they also want the fans forever.
What are some other brands that are also investing heavily when it comes to the sports sector, specifically women's sports?
Well, a lot of the cloud guys, Amazon, IBM, they're all investing in technology because to run a team and to run the fan experience is a technology, holistic, integrated experience. So you're seeing owners and coaches look at technology as an enabler for them.
And I also see a lot of these massive digital streaming services, like you mentioned, Amazon and Netflix, streaming now major sports teams. There's even been conversations we were having with FanDuel when they were here about streaming the Super Bowl. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, streaming's awesome because what's just basically TV on the internet, and you're going to see a lot more channels and a lot more content. Personalization will be a big deal, and I think we're going to still lean back and watch TV, but also you're going to see spot programming, like watch Instagram Reels, YouTube videos. Those are kind of like snackable content, but ultimately you're going to see a lot more new programming come out of the streaming, and that's going to be a good thing.
A lot to look out for. Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure as always.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we have a lot more coverage to get to, so stay tuned.
Quantum Health is the category creator for healthcare navigation, where we supply healthcare navigation for the largest self-insured employers in the country.
I want to talk about your business strategy. What would you say is your strategic focus over the next 3 to 5 years?
Our focus is really around how do we create the best healthcare experience for members, because healthcare is incredibly complex and hard. It's continuing to be complex. Our role is to take that complexity and simplify it for our members and try to create better experiences, more engagement, and drive better clinical and financial outcomes.
Tell me more about your culture and motivation at the company. What inspires you and how do you remain innovative and ahead of the curve?
Culture is everything. So you can feel it when you come into our shop. You can feel how people are warrioring on behalf of our members to get the best out of their best benefits for the members, try to create that experience that's better, take the scariness out of healthcare for them. So culture is everything. We invest heavily in our warrior culture. That's a big key element. It's probably the piece that doesn't show up on my balance sheet or income statement, but it's the most important part. And then the innovation side of this is how do we take the problems that our clients are seeing in terms of costs and try to drive those cost elements out. So we're constantly working with our clients and thinking on our own, what's the next best thing that can make a difference both from an experience, an engagement, and a financial and clinical outcome.
Can you share some real life examples of some of the work that you're proud of or key milestones that you've achieved?
One of the big key elements is we're seeing in our clients is pharmacy costs have gone up significantly. So you may have seen some things around GLP-1s and specialty meds. I can tell you from a pharmacy trend perspective, that is significantly hitting our clients. And so what we've been able to do is
Welcome back to NYSC TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here with Trinity Chavez. Trinity, our trophy, not our trophy, the New York Liberty WNBA Championship team here, hailing from Brooklyn. We were seeing that trophy behind us just moments ago. Incredible what these women have accomplished. And just, I think about this season, Trinity, I think about the increase in viewership that has been so amazing to watch.
Yeah, no, it's really been an incredible journey. And, I know my sister, Jasmine, she's a basketball player herself. And, the WNBA and specifically the Liberty, she's been following the trajectory of this whole team and a huge fan. So, it's hugely motivational for young women all around the world. But, just what it's doing for the overall sports sector. But I think we have to wrap it up now.
We'll leave it there for Trinity Chavez, Kristen Scholler here at the Stock Exchange. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
I'm reminded that it's not about the destination. It is truly about the journey.
My pleasure to greet you today from the center of the U.S. capital markets here at the New York Stock Exchange.
I want to just take a minute and not just talk to the people that are in the room, but I want to speak to the rest of the team around the globe. These are people that made this happen, and I know that there is no way we would be here if it wasn't for you.
Everyone at Flutter is proud to join such a distinguished list of companies on this great stock exchange.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. Look how far we have come. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege to be with you.